Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. With the transfer portal largely winding down, we're taking a look back at the last couple of months and diving into some transfer portal classes, giving out some grades. Next up on the docket, the Miami Hurricanes. And if you're a teacher and you're grading a bunch of test scores, you're fired up to see the Miami Hurricanes come on your desk, get into this grading because you kind of know they did a great job. Want to talk about two different things. One, talk about the rubric that we're going to be using to grade out transfer portal classes, and then get into some of the difference makers that the Hurricanes have coming in and what that means for them heading into 2024. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Miami Hurricane fans. Y'all know it's been a blast for me talking this program over the last couple of weeks and months. We've broken down, I think, every commitment that Miami has received over the last couple of months. I can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to hear some feedback from you guys in the comments section. Drop your transfer portal grades there. We'll chop it up. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start, before we get into the grading process, let's talk about the rubric. How do we evaluate these transfer portal classes in this day and age of college football? There's three things that I want to focus on. One, the quality of players. And you look at, 24/7 Sports, On3, they put out their transfer portal rankings. They do a great job, right? I'm not getting at 24/7 Sports, On3. Very big fan. We use them a lot. What I am critiquing is that their evaluations, their rankings, if you will, their grades, if you will, are very predicated on the quantity of players that programs are bringing in, right? The top teams in the transfer portal, according to their rankings, are all the teams that have 20 plus transfers coming in. And you look at, is that the best way to evaluate a transfer portal class? Definitely not, right? You look at Miami sitting 13th in the country. There is no doubt in my mind, even the Florida State, the Florida Gator fans are going to be saying this Miami Hurricanes team got better in the portal. So number one, we're focusing on quality of players that you're brought in, especially when you recruit to the level that the Miami Hurricanes recruit at, right? You're not just bringing in as many as you can because you get most of your roster from the high school ranks. Number two, and I think probably the most important, is using the transfer portal to fill your roster needs. And I think there are so many programs across the country that just try to grab as many good players as they can. And, sometimes squeeze out the good players that are already on the roster. I look at the transfer portal and say, you want to use the portal to fill in the cracks of your roster, not just grab as many players as you can. So did Miami fill their needs through the transfer portal? And then number three, really important as well, did you lose anyone from the transfer portal? A lot of people just want to focus on the names coming in. What names did you lose? Were you able to hang on to most of your good players in the transfer portal? Another very important conversation to have. And without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with the quality of players, and it starts with Cam Ward. Now, I've been extremely vocal that if you were to ask me to pick a quarterback from the transfer portal that was going to give me the best chance to win 10 plus games, it was going to be Cam Ward. And you'll see Dante Moore, Aiden Childs, they have higher transfer portal rankings because they have more eligibility remaining. Cam Ward, in my mind, for my money, was the best quarterback available in the transfer portal in terms of winning now in 2024. That's obviously a difference maker. I think Cam Ward, there's a very strong argument that he's a top 10, top 5 quarterback in the country. That was probably the biggest need that the Miami Hurricanes had. We said it throughout the 2023 season. That roster was a damn good roster. They didn't have quarterback play. And if you don't have quarterback play, you can surround your team with really, really good talent. If you don't have good quarterback play, you're not going to win at the level that's expected of a Miami Hurricanes program. So addressing Cam Ward is obviously massive, but you start looking at some other names that came in. Simeon Barrow Jr. on your screen right now, one of the best pure pass rushers on the inside of the defensive line. You look at a guy in Damian Martinez. I think a lot of people have him as a top 5 running back heading into 2024, got him from the portal. You look at someone like Sam Brown and say, Sam Brown coming from Houston, one of the more productive wide receivers you saw in the Big 12. I think you look at the quality of players that the Hurricanes brought in, and you point at a lot of those different guys and say difference makers. I'd even go to someone like Elijah Alston coming over from Marshall, who, was sneakily, I think that's the word, one of the best pass rushers in all of college football last year. And so you look at the difference makers that Miami has coming in, they certainly satisfy the quality of players coming into this program. Now, secondly, did you fill your roster needs? We talked about the quarterback play. That was by far the biggest roster need for this Hurricanes program. It's the most important position on the field. Certainly did that with Cam Ward. You all of a sudden had some question marks about the depth at the running back spot. Okay, you go out and bring in one of the best running backs in the country. And then what are some other needs that Miami had? You look at the secondary, you're bringing an extremely experienced safety in Michelle Powell who can give you some nickel value. You can play him off at that safety spot. A lot of versatility, ton of experience that Michelle Powell brings. You're bringing a guy like Deani Hill coming from Marshall where Travis Jackson, Lance Guidry, they know what he can do. You kind of feel good about that get as well. If there was one thing to be critical about is that maybe I'm looking at it and saying, I wouldn't mind one more defensive back who's kind of proven at the Power 5 level, specifically in that cornerback room. That is just about any gripe that you have with this Hurricanes transfer portal haul. But I think on the flip side of that argument, Mario Cristobal, Travis Jackson, Lance Guidry might be sitting there and saying, yeah, we feel pretty good about guys like Robert Stafford or guys like Damari Brown. They might just feel better about the cornerback position than a lot of fans who don't have that inside information might feel. So maybe it wasn't as much of a pressing problem as we kind of thought it was heading into 2024. And then you look at some other needs that they filled. You make no mistake about it. Mario Cristobal wants to build this program from the line of scrimmage. CJ Clark, Marley Cook, Elijah Alston, Simeon Barrow Jr. Look at the offensive line spot. You lose an all-conference guy in Matt Lee, one of the best centers in the country. That was a question mark heading into 2024. What do? Turn around and bring in an extremely experienced center in Zach Carpenter coming from Indiana. I think Miami looked at this roster and did a really good job of not only just bringing in a lot of good players, but bringing in a lot of good players at the positions that they wanted to address heading into 2024. Now, you look at the players that they lost. This might be another thing that maybe you can be a little critical of the Miami Hurricanes, but I don't even know if I'm being that critical. If you lose guys like Jaden Wayne, Jared Harrison Hunt, Colby Young, some really quality players that would have been productive in 2024, that is, kind of the part of doing the transfer portal and getting aggressive in the transfer portal like the Miami Hurricanes did. I look at the overall kind of quality of players that they brought in, filling out roster needs. And I think all those three things that we talked about, the three grading criteria that kind of accumulates in, did your team get better heading into 2024 by using the transfer portal? And I think unquestionably, this team got a lot better, right? You obviously upgrade at your quarterback spot. You upgrade at the running back spot. You make this defensive line one of the best units, not only in the ACC, but in the country. Giving out a transfer portal grade for the Miami Hurricanes as the lawnmower guys coming in. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm giving them an A. And I think it starts with Cam Ward. I think maybe the only two things you could be critical of, maybe holding them back from getting that perfect score, was I think you could have grabbed another veteran quarterback. I think you could have maybe held on to some of that young talent, guys like Jaden Wayne. But outside of that, it's unquestionable that this Miami Hurricanes program heading into 2024 is going to take massive strides from a personnel standpoint, and they use the transfer portal effectively. We're fired up about this program. I'm giving them an A in the transfer portal. Would love to hear your grades in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.